You know, whether we have 2 supervisors or whether, you know, we change the wording so that the county, if the county makes some changes, we're adaptable to it. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Vince, and how that came about and why you guys put that wording in that they're so upset about?
Sure. And good morning, Mayor and Council. There were some remarks made at the last council meeting by, I believe, Gordon Boyd and Robin Baxter, suggesting to the council that you reject our proposed amendments to section 2.1 of the charter, which relates to the county supervisors. I believe they described it as reducing the number of supervisors from 2 to 1, or I believe they also referred to it as abolishing one of the 2 county supervisor positions. They described it as unfathomable and undemocratic. And I just want to be abundantly clear that those statements are false. Under the charter as it currently exists, we have 2 county supervisors at the Board of Supervisors. If the council were to implement the proposed amendment submitted by the Charter Review Commission, we would still have 2 county supervisors at the Board of Supervisors. We have 2 county supervisors not because it's in our charter. We have 2 supervisors because the county adopted a local law establishing 2 supervisors. And this originated following the 1967 Court of Appeals case of Iannucci v. Board of Supervisors, which required the 1 person, 1 vote implementation and the regulation of the weighted voting system. In 1968, the County Board of Supervisors established a local law to align with the Court of Appeals decision and indicated that our representation at the County Board of Supervisors is based on a weighted voting system subject to our population thresholds that were established in the local law. In 1968, that population threshold was at 12,000. And it was indicated at that time that because of our population, we went from 1 to 2 supervisors at the Board of Supervisors, and the total number of supervisors at the county went from 21 to 22. Periodically, and more specifically, every 10 years based on the census, the county undertakes an evaluation reviewing the thresholds. And they have, over the years, increased those population thresholds. In the 1970s, Clifton Park went from 1 supervisor to 2. And the most recent local law adopted by the county, I believe, increased the thresholds to what are now, I believe, 27,500, somewhere in that ballpark. So when we undertook our review of the city charter, we got to section 2.1 and simply in reviewing that section had the question acknowledging the role that the county plays in determining the number of supervisors that we have at the city of Saratoga Springs. One of the members of the commission, who was at that time also a supervisor, had been for a number of years, is now a former supervisor, reached out to the county attorney, George Conway, to specifically get more information regarding this issue, and we were provided with a memo that outlined some of those things that I just indicated to you, the Court of Appeals case and the implementation of the local law to align with that case and the thresholds based on populations. So we proposed language in the charter that simply acknowledges the county's role. It doesn't change the number. It simply goes from indicating 2 county supervisors to there shall be 1 or more as established by county law. So if the thresholds change such that the number of supervisors would ultimately also change, it would allow for that ability. But we wouldn't be able to prevent that change if we keep that language in the charter. So I'm not sure where the confusion lies. I don't believe the proposed amendment that we provided was even ambiguous, but it certainly did not and does not reduce the number of supervisors from 2 to 1. So I don't know if there are any questions on that. I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, my question is that it appears
that if we accept the recommendations of the Charter Review Commission, it appears that we are giving up some control from our city to the county to determine how we are represented at the county level. That doesn't seem right to a lot of people.
Except that that's not what we're doing.
So we need to, I need to understand that a little better. I mean, I know that you explained it, I think you explained it, but I haven't quite internalized what it is you're saying.
Yeah.
It seems like just going to say that, hey, we're going to give that authority to the county is reducing our ability to represent ourselves at the county level. I'm just trying to understand that, and I don't quite understand it now.
Oh, a couple of points to that, if I may. One is, I think at the outset, there needs to be an understanding that under the municipal home rule law, the County of Saratoga, as a local government, is empowered to establish the composition and makeup of its legislative body. The legislative body of the County of Saratoga is the Board of Supervisors. The increase, by the way, when we look back to when this increased from 1 supervisor to 2 at the city, it didn't increase because it was in the charter. And I'm not even sure, and I've asked Tony to pull the charter that existed prior to the one that was adopted in 2001 as to what the language said, but it's not based on the language in our charter. And to use that as a comparison, if the population thresholds had changed such that we would be entitled to 3 county supervisors, does anyone think for a second that we would forfeit that 3rd supervisor because our charter specifically says 2? That's not how it works. That's not how it would work. And this subject came up in 2017 as well during the Charter Review Commission that you were a part of, Commissioner. And it had been indicated, and the minutes reflect this, that Gordon Boyd in particular was of the opinion that the reference to the county supervisor should be removed from the charter. He acknowledged then and understood then that it is not a creature of city government. It is subject to county law and county government.
So basically what's happening here, so if we were to say 2, really doesn't make any difference at all? Or does it? Does it then put us in a case where we might fight over whether our charter supersedes the county's capability of making this kind of a decision? You know what I mean? I don't think it does it? I mean,
I don't either.
From what you just said, I mean, they're doing it based on a law that was established before. We don't have any choice.
I believe that Gordon also made reference to, for example, Glens Falls and some other communities. The distinction with those is that Glens Falls in particular operates their city government under a ward system or a district system. And so they have, in their instance, I believe, 5 representatives at the County Board of Supervisors. I believe it was Canandaigua or some other municipality out in that area, and that is similar, where that municipality has a ward system where they have individuals representing certain wards within that municipality, and their representation at the County Board of Supervisors is in alignment with that ward system. That is not because it's in the charter. That is because the county in which that municipality resides allows it. I believe if we were to have a ward system, that would be something that would potentially have an effect on our representation at the Board of Supervisors by way of the number, but not because we put it in our charter, because it's in the county law.
Okay.
Thank you. We did get George Conway's memo. I did share it with the supervisor or the council the other day, and we did pull Warren County's local law number 2 of 2023 if anybody wants it. To figure out why Glens Falls had 5, and it is because of the ward system, and it's my understanding it doesn't change their weighted vote.
Does not.
It dilutes their weighted vote basis. Whether they're 2 or 4, they get the same weighted vote, correct?
The vote of the municipality is directly tied to the population of that municipality. So every municipality in the county of Saratoga, just putting Glens Falls aside because I think our focus is on our county, every municipality in the county of Saratoga has a vote that is weighted based on the population of that municipality, and that population is reviewed every 10 years at the decennial census. Only the city of Saratoga Springs and Clifton Park have supervisors at the county whose vote is equal to 1/2 of the population. And that is because Saratoga Springs and Clifton Park are the only 2 municipalities in the county of Saratoga that have 2 supervisors. Everyone else has 1. So their 1 supervisor carries the entire weight of the entire population of that municipality. Our supervisor carries the weight of 1/2 of the population of the city of Saratoga Springs because we have 2. So it's divided in half. So no municipality gets any more or any fewer votes in totality. It's all tied to the population, and that's how you get or align with, rather, the 1 person, 1 vote requirement.
My understanding is that the number of supervisors makes a difference in committee assignments.
It does.
And in what comes up to a vote. And that seems like it's an issue that makes it undemocratic for a city not to have enough representatives so they have their influence in what comes up to a vote. So I don't know how we address that so that Saratoga Springs is treated fairly by the county. I believe there are county practices in place today that makes it a bit undemocratic. And we need to do whatever we can to get rid of that, to make sure that we are living in a democratic society.
Oh, so we
I
can,
don't know how to address that if we don't specify the number of supervisors that could get those committee assignments, that could have influence in what comes up to a vote.
The only thing I would suggest to you, Commissioner, is putting it in the charter does not further the purpose you are hoping it would.
So I challenge is not the right word. I asked the Charter Review Commission to see how that inequity can be addressed.
okay, well, it's not the charter review, it's us. It's
No,
what
okay.
It's what we end up
Right.
putting in and agreeing to. I
So I'm-
mean, because it makes absolutely no difference, I don't know why we need to change it at all. Just leave, I mean, if the county decides to change it, it's going to change regardless.
Yeah.
Whether we have 2 or 1 or whatever, right?
To that point, Mayor, and I can also indicate, I mean, the work that we did as a commission and the product that we had submitted to you, our report, the 40-plus amendments that are being proposed, this particular one was not of any controversy or concern at all. If this is one that the council does not feel comfortable implementing, by all means, do not implement it, but just don't make that decision based on false information.
No,
I
I get
appreciate that. And I also, if you look at it the other way, if we're going to put 2 and the county lowers their threshold of representatives, our charter only has 2 when we could have 3. Because now it's per 15,000 versus.
Originally, again, in
now it's-
1968, the threshold was 12,000.
Yeah, I know,
If
I
that
did,
threshold
it is
had
here.
remained consistent, we would be at 3.
Right, yeah, exactly. So 1 or more at least covers you that way as well.
Well, we can discuss that, but it seems that's the only real feedback we've gotten.
Yeah, and I know that there have been some comments regarding our proposal relating to the inclusion of IT and risk and
Yes.
safety, and I respect the council's deliberation on that.
And actually, you could speak to that a little bit, couldn't you?
I can indicate that as we further our efforts as part of Phase 2, we are reevaluating those particular positions.
You are,
Yeah.
okay.
And-
Oh, good. Are
and-
you going to come up with,
What is being discussed, no determinations have been made yet, and once we narrow this more, we're going to have public input and feedback, but one of the things that have been discussed is trying to centralize certain positions within City Hall that we believe carry citywide importance, HR being one of them. HR currently resides in the mayor's department, but really is bound to serve all 5 departments and every employee within the building equally. Similarly, legal. Legal is currently in its own section, but IT and risk and safety were those positions that we believed served citywide functions of such importance that they should be more centralized and not under any one particular department.
So is it possible that you'll come back with different recommendations?
It is, and the only ones I think so far that we're approaching that are those with regard to risk and safety and IT. But I think, keep in mind, you should still move forward with what you're proposing, because as history has told us for the last 25 years, every time charter's on the ballot, it has not succeeded. So I think your amendments are still worthy to move forward, and if they're successful, great. But if they're even if they get superseded by our referendum amendments, no harm.
Just so to be very clear about this is that we make this decision. They're making suggestions to us, and we have to vote on this. And actually, I was thinking about starting to do public hearings for this, but maybe it's not time. I kind of want to move ahead on this kind of thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to go back to the supervisors again.
Yes.
So it's your legal opinion that it's subject to county law, right? So should we change, your language in here was one or more supervisors as may be established by county law. Should we change that language to make it clear that it's established by county law rather than put in maybe, just say, or shall?
You can do that.
Yeah.
But the county does revisit this.
Yes, the next review is in 2032, I believe. Yeah.
Every 10 years
Every
based
10
on the
years.
decennial census.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, I don't want to hold this thing up for something that is not as substantial as some of these others.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't make any difference anyway. I don't know why they're making such a deal out of it. But one thing is that our supervisors can lobby the county to make changes,
Yes.
and change these things. But,
Yeah,
that's why fight over something that's in.
The local law that the county adopts establishing these regulations every 10 years, our supervisors have votes on that local law, and that local law is also subject to, I believe, at a minimum, permissive referendum, which means if there's enough people, this can go on the ballot and be subject to the voters instead of the Board of Supervisors.
That would be the vote of the county, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the county voters, not Saratoga alone.
Right.
Okay.
I just have a couple questions since you're here, not about this supervisor thing, is that all right?
Oh, yeah, sure. I have other
So
stuff, too.
under the Commissioner of Public Works, sustainable came.
Yeah.
And you guys, the commission changed the beautification and environmental programs.
Oh, yeah.
They think it's a little overbroad. Commissioner Karamati had a little reservation with it. I'm wondering what the thought process was, and do you see any problem with turning it back to the composting?
The thought process, and I respect very much Sustainable's perspective on this, the thought process was that, first of all, the existing language is, I believe, beautification and composting.
Yeah.
We thought that, conversely, that was too narrow. That what DPW does is far more and far greater than simply composting. That we thought to expand that to include environmental programs, and there's further language in there detailing the importance of that and the type of programs. That was the intent. Composting is simply a little bit of an old word and not sufficiently inclusive of what DPW actually does. But to Sustainable's point was the intent to be overly broad, that it doesn't recognize environmental programs that other departments are actually responsible for. That was not the intent. I'm not sure that the language needs to be changed, but if it were, I don't think we would be bothered or offended by that, because that point is not invalid.
Okay. And then I do have one other question. I probably have more than one other, but this was brought up when we discussed the accounts department section. In the charter, we have a time frame to review the UDO and the charter. Would we ever want to add a time to do reassessments, a time frame? Is that something that would be in the charter? Like every 10 years, a property should be reassessed? It kind of then takes it out of the politician's hand
Yeah.
and puts it into the charter.
New York State recommends no more than every 10 years.
Okay.
It's not a hard and fast rule, but that's the recommendation, and clearly we're well beyond it. And it's, given that we have 2-year terms, nobody wants to run on it. And if it were in the charter, it's kind of a no-brainer then, in terms of then you're just required, and you get the pass on.
Yeah. So where we are currently in phase 2 is that we as a commission are trying to narrow those areas of focus that we are going to spend the remainder of our time working on, because we've only got 5-6 months, to get this done. One of the areas of focus, and again, we haven't voted on anything, but one of the areas of focus is actually assessments. The specific discussion that was raised was with regard to whether or not the city assessor should in fact be the commissioner, or whether it should be separate from the commissioner. It's one of the more unique positions in our city government where you are the only one, commissioner, who's required to be specifically licensed in a specific area to be the commissioner of accounts. So there's some real question about whether the assessor should be separate from the commissioner, subject to your oversight, but under you, not as opposed to
Rather than
being
not an
you.
assistant assessor being a full-fledged assessor.
But to your point about the time frame, I think is appropriate to include with that conversation, and I will raise that.
It also, our charter, because we're such an unusual form of government, the state doesn't really align with the New York State guidelines for the amount of time you're allotted to get your certification. And coincidentally, we had 2 very long-term people that were in the office. We had John Frank, and then we had Tony, I can never say his last name.
Apalizio?
Yes,
Yeah.
so they were here for a very long time, but they both left close to the same time, which left us in a unique situation of they both were certified, and then they left us with nobody certified. And New York State Assessors Association and ORPS both require, you have up to 3 years to get your certification. But given that situation could happen, then maybe that requirement needs to look at being changed for one of the two. It might limit the applicants in terms of an assessor, because there really are not that many that are certified, but it doesn't need to be 3 years. We have some people who were required to get training for various things in the city who did that. Rachel's one of them who managed to knock that off really fast. So maybe we need to look at changing that requirement for one of the two so that we don't put the city in that position in the future.
I will raise that, Commissioner.
Are you saying that to change that requires a referendum? Is that one of the,
To change the,
what,
Adding the assessment time frame.
yeah, can we do that?
I believe that would, because that is an obligation of the Commissioner of Accounts to perform duties, and you are putting a restriction on those duties to be performed. I think that may, in fact, trigger the requirement of.
Okay, just to be clear for anybody listening is, up to this point, all these recommendations are ones that we can make.
Yes.
And again, I emphasize the point, and they're just recommending things. We have to actually take those recommendations or make changes or do whatever we can so that we can change it just at this council table.
Yes.
But now they're starting to work on things where it has to go to the voters.
At the risk of repeating myself, I believe, I may be wrong about this, I believe that in our current form of government, it is within the authority of the Commissioner of Accounts to create a civil service position that is a full-time assessor as a requirement.
It could create the position of a full-time assistant city
No.
assessor.
A
The
full,
Commissioner is the assessor.
no, well, That's what I'm entertaining the concept
Yeah.
of having the commissioner of accounts be responsible for assessments,
Yes.
but the duties of the assessment be performed by a professionally trained assessor.
I think, BK,
No.
I think that's what we're talking about.
Well,
Doing-
no.
although in order to do that,
The
it's going to
commissioner-
require,
Need another position.
No. What I'm saying is that it is currently within our power to do that.
Yes, but to be clear, Commissioner,
Yeah.
to be clear, the charter requires the Commissioner of Accounts to be, to meet the qualifications and have the certifications of the assessor. So the Commissioner of Accounts, regardless of what the point you're making, has to have and be an assessor. They can retain an assistant city assessor, and we do.
I understand that.
Yep.
But at the same time, that would be sort of like requiring the Commissioner of Public Works to be an engineer.
Agree.
And we don't have, I'm essentially recommending or entertaining the concept of getting rid of that. And making the Commissioner of Accounts responsible for assessments, but would him or herself not be required to be a professional assessor.
That's exactly what we are going to be
that's what
discussing.
we're trying to
Talking
do.
about. But we have an assistant assessor who does a fantastic job. If they want to talk about maybe changing his requirements and changing his title, but we don't need another position. He more than handles the job to a very high level. He's great. And I just, overinflating a budget and adding people, it wouldn't be the same as yours, where yours is kind of a net neutral thing. You're giving somebody up. So we'd have to give up our assistant assessor to make him an assessor maybe, but
All I'm trying to think of a way for the city to run better and not be so political. So it's more professional, and the job that requires a high degree of knowledge and expertise become part of the city government and not subject to elections every 2 years.
That's why we work with
yeah,
the,
Dave
that's
is
what
about
we're
as
trying to do.
apolitical as you
BK.
can get. Dave he does the job. He has zero political
Yeah.
bias. He is extremely qualified. He has everything you could possibly want. It's just the difficulties in the qualification timeline is the only thing that I think really needs to be addressed. It doesn't require any more people or any change other than making sure, somehow ensuring that that timeline, if that coincidence happens again where we lose two people in the same time frame, that we don't have two new people coming in without it. It would be very difficult to hire a full-time assessor right from the beginning with the certifications. There are not a lot of them. And the position is fairly well paid in Saratoga. He has everything you could possibly want.
Yeah.
Looking for ways to ensure that we're not putting the city at risk.
It would,
Potentially a 3-year time frame.
it would still be a referendum, though, because we're taking the power away from
yes.
them.
Yep.
Thank you.
But we
A
are discussing
charter is
that.
what governs this
too.
stuff right now. Okay. I actually, we don't have time to go into it, but I do want to discuss at some point the length of our boards, being average of 7 years, our land use boards. And I wonder, it's hard to get people to commit to that.
Yeah.
And whether or not some kind of, you guys didn't even address that, but I was looking at it today and wondering if that's something that we should discuss openly about.
You can. That is currently in our code. The length of term for those boards is not included in our charter. They typically align with the number. So a 7-member board typically serves 7 years. 5-member board typically serves 5 years.
Yeah, I'd like to
3-member board,
discuss.
3 years.
Well, it's actually in the addendums here, right?
Excuse me?
It's in the addendums?
It's in the appendix just for a reference, but
Okay.
the law establishing the number and term of those boards is in the code.
Okay, so again, that's something we can change by local
Yes, you
law. Okay, very good. Anything else?
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in.